Я водій маршрутки.
Я скоро одружуся. Я фанат шахтера. Начальник отдела продаж.
Я прораб.
Я программист.
Я свидетель на свадьбе.
Дядя Юра, таксист.
Я вчитель фізкультури.
Я студент-геолог.
У мене своя фірма.
Я кращий друг зі школи.
Я сусід, який завжди стукає по батареї.
Я єдиний син.
Hello everyone. As I said, you cannot hear me, but I will see you anyway. Welcome to today's Saturday stream. Well, it's Saturday for me. I don't know if it's Saturday for you. I really hope so. Welcome to today, giving a Q&A stream. We're going to talk about certain things. We're going to discuss what you guys have questions about. We're going to talk about how this couple of weeks passed. Going to answer your questions. And I'm going to start by obviously saying huge thanks to the moderating team. You guys already know that. I will take the headphones off because there's no reason for me to have them. I was just listening to the music. And yes, sorry, got my head a little bit thinking about something else. But I want to start by saying huge thanks to the moderating team. Without the moderating team, if you don't know, we would not have a clean comment section under every video that we would go inside and we could read opinions. So it's a very nice clean of trolls. We also have a Discord server where all of the video updates. Remember, YouTube doesn't allow me to post a lot of videos and talk about them. It demonetizes videos. And the fact that we have Discord, which is running, and the whole community that is updating the news about Ukraine and the videos there and everything else is really amazing, and it helps supplement the channel and kind of evens out the downsides of my videos being just basically me talking to just a couple of pictures on the internet. So please join me by giving a hand and thanking so much our moderating team. They are amazing. So let's start today's session. So a bit of a change. So there has been news that North Koreans have appeared already close to the Ukrainian front lines, and supposedly Ukrainian long-range artillery has already struck the North Koreans. However, I created this video, and then after that I started looking around, and well, basically I cannot completely verify that because there are three news sources that have reported on this, but let's just say it's just text, so I haven't seen any proofs. But all in all, it's not something that we haven't seen before. North Koreans have already been struck around Ukraine. And some people have asked, what's the situation with North Koreans? How bad it is? And should or can we expect them to influence the situation on the front line? So firstly, the situation. Right now, the estimated number of North Korean troops that are expected to be entering the front lines with Ukraine is about 10,000, of which about 3,000 is initial training staff, initial command staff. So it's all of the people that will help us form brigades, command brigades, be the units that will prevent North Koreans from running away, and so on and so on. So all of these initial troops, and then 7,000 that is reportedly are the footmen. Those are the first fresh meat that's supposed to enter the Russian Kursk region, where they need to help defend the front lines against potential Ukrainian offensive. How effective they will be, these now. So first and foremost, let me dispel something that a lot of people have posted, and I think it's completely untrue. So there is like 7,000 North Koreans, but Ukraine supposedly disables about 1,500 Russian troops per day. So that means like 7,000 divided by 1,500. Well, they're not going to last more than a couple of days. Well, that's not how it works, unfortunately, because while Russia has this attrition rate, but Russia also has the substitution rate. There is a lot of Russians that are still signing up to join the fight, mostly for money, but some of them for some other reasons, mostly because they're deluded, but mostly for money. And they're signing up to go kill Ukrainians and continue this war. So when we're talking about North Koreans being supplied to Russia, it's an additional amount to that. So it creates a bit of problem. To put a scale for you of how big that problem is, right now, Ukraine and Russia roughly are about equal with how many people they can get into their armed forces. It is about 20 to about 25,000 per month. That is the number. It's a relatively known number also for Ukrainian side, so I'm not telling any secrets here. So it's about 25,000 soldiers per month. When we're talking about North Korea sending these 10,000 Korean troops, the problem is not the 10,000 Korean troops. The issue is if those 10,000 Korean troops will be coming in fresh every month. So if Russia suddenly, instead of getting 25,000 troops per month, suddenly it becomes 35,000 troops a month, it's a bit of an issue. Would you agree with me? So that's why it's very important for us to be very clear that the ultimate issue is not that North Koreans right now being sent are going to influence the front line significantly, but that once North Koreans come in, once their general command staff and so on understands the first initial mistakes and going to streamline the system for them to come in, and then if Kim Jong-un is going to agree to send in these maybe 7,000-10,000 additional North Korean troops per month to Russia, it can create problematic disbalance for Ukrainians. Even if we consider that they're less effective than the Russian other forces, it is going to be a problem. Now, I know that there has been discussion about maybe they will desert and so on. It's better for us, like if that happens, great, that's amazing. But let's not expect that to happen, because that is a stupid expectation to have. You know, like my channel is being shit on a lot because like I'm supposedly too optimistic and so on. I like to look at things more realistically. So when there are good things to talk about, I talk about good things. But when people start like pulling the good things out of their ass, I'm sorry for expression, then I'm gonna call it out. And in this case, stating that they will just all desert, I think it's a bit of a wishful thinking. So let's be very clear with that. So North Koreans, that's why the danger of North Koreans is not what's happening right now. The danger of North Koreans is what's going to happen in a little bit of a time. We will see what's going to happen. Right now, North Korean troops that are coming in is causing more issues for the Russian than they're helping. Russians are complaining that they're dedicating time to actually train these North Koreans. Plus, there is a big question that a lot of the Russian commentators are asking, who is going to supply the North Korean troops? Because supposedly, as far as I understood, that while North Korea is sending the troops to Russia, it falls on the Russian shoulders to supply these North Korean troops. And it's already causing a lot of tension. So imagine the war in which you're already strained for resources, and since suddenly you have like an ally that comes in, hey, I'm gonna fight for you, but only if you will do everything essentially for me, the hardest part, the logistics, supply, and so on, plus the language barrier, plus the inability to coordinate, so there is no in-between coordination. Russia has been known, and if you've been following this war, you know for sure that the communications in Russia have been absolutely garbage. So even with this, having additional units that just do not really speak Russian, or it takes too long for them to report certain areas, because I'm going to give you a hint, they don't really teach Russian at North Korea. So there will need to be a certain system set up. Like it's not an unsolvable problem. It's just going to take certain time. So while right now I don't look at the North Koreans coming in as a big issue for Ukrainians, I think the fact that we have this precedent and the response from the Western Alliance have been, let's just say, lacking, and I know why, but let's just very clearly say that it has been lacking, we clearly are now in a more dangerous situation for Ukraine, but I am not ready to say that it's going to be something that's going to change the situation for Russia for good. Because if it is indeed the case that Russia will be supplying North Koreans with equipment, well then, does it really matter for you or for me or for Ukrainians whether it's the Russian soldiers that are coming in and being equipped by Russia, or it's the North Korean soldiers that are coming in being equipped by Russia? Because Russia is still bound not so much by the human capital, but by the equipment shortages. Yeah, that's true, right? There is a lot of variables in this, so it's too early to tell for now. But right now, there is a lot of things that are stating that initial bunch of Koreans will not have severe impact, and they will have impact only if they will scale it up and will do this like monthly basis injections into Russia. North Korea indeed have enough resources to do so. With that said, let's get to some of the questions. Russell Whiskey, thank you so much. Slava Ukraini, thank you so much for being a member for 17 months. And I remember you so much, my friend. Let's go. Taisteluka Kuna. I butchered that so bad, but I'm butchering it every time. Rant, not a rant. Let's get to a rant. We're gonna get a rant. When I'm gonna start receiving some stupid questions, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a rant. So if anyone asks some of the questions that I skip, please repeat the question so I then can get back to it. All right. So what do I have? So the first question is from Canada. Hello, my question is about the drones setting the trees on fire. This is supposed to happen, right? If you're talking about the Dragon drones, yes, this is supposed to happen. The whole point is to burn the trees so Russians have A, no protection, and B, have issues with, well, smoke and gas and so on. It's not a nice place to be in a trench when everything around you is burning and you're suffocating, basically. Ellie, can I get to $1 raised to have to deal with MAGAs in comments? Love you, G. I love you, Ali. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you so much for sticking with my old ass here. I really appreciate it. What about the B? When will Ukraine utilize the Patriot systems as intended? It already has. Ukraine already utilizes the Patriot systems. What? Ali, who do you think Melania will vote for? I'm going to say Kamala, just to watch him be humiliated by a woman, and so she doesn't have to be the first lady again. Maybe, I don't know. The unpronounceable name starting with M, it's mostly symbols in the name, so I cannot pronounce it. Putin, dick, shoots out, fingers, snap. Is Putin a homosexual? If Putin is a homosexual, there is nothing wrong with this, but I am not sure. Bonus pater familias. Hi, when does the mud season start? Are the mud conditions the same in Kursk, down in the east and south? No, it's a very good question, actually. The mud season has already started, but the conditions around the mud in south are a little bit worse than they are in the north. In the north, there is a lot of forests, and let's just say the trees, they make the ground just a little bit less sticky. However, not totally that, the northern part around Kursk is just a little bit more urbanized. So there's a little bit more paved roads. I'm not saying a lot because it's still Russia, but there are still there. So let's just say that it's not the conditions, like for the conditions to actually influence severely what's happening in the north around Kursk or northern Ukraine, there needs to be significant bombing campaign ongoing that would destroy the infrastructure. Right now that doesn't happen, and so there is plenty of existing infrastructure to overcome any mud season for heavier equipment. Obviously, I'm talking maybe like from local cars, like civilian cars. Obviously, it can be problematic. What do you think will happen if Trump wins? It's a long discussion. My hope is he doesn't. If you're an American, please vote Harris. Kamala Harris is our best option to go forward with supporting Ukraine and winning this war for Ukraine, which is amazing. All right. Would Ukraine, the West benefit, the Raven asks, would Ukraine, the West benefit by hiring foreign mercenaries for use in the war in order to ensure Russia cannot recruit them first? That's actually interesting question. I think it might help. I think it was explored, but I'm not completely sure that there are such a big mercenary groups, because what I think we're not getting is just the scale of this war, right? I'm not sure there are private military companies or like mercenary companies that can really field like something like a brigade of units on constant basis. And if it's less than brigade, then there might be an issue that it's going to be more problematic to have them than not to have. There have been already International Legion, and from what I've heard about the International Legion, it has been ups and downs with it. Like there has been a lot of issues with that, but there's also been some benefits. The fact that it hasn't been scaled already kind of hints to me that Ukraine is looking for a more homogeneous contract army. But I don't think that it's something outside of the imagination that could be done. Newman, thank you so much for being a member for 17 months. Fuck MAGA, absolutely. Anton Forsberg, thanks so much for 20 Swedish krona. Appreciate it, Tuck. H. Saurit, thank you so much for 24 Canadian dollars. And Anton Forsberg, thank you so much for 30 Swedish krona. Guys, thank you so much for the donations. I really appreciate it. I would like to ask something very simple. We are actually doing the campaign right now for Ukraine. And in that campaign, we're trying to get the money for the drones, for the vehicles, and so on. So while I appreciate the donations, to me, this is really, really nice. And it's really, really appreciated. But I would like us to, first and foremost, focus right now on the helping to Ukraine. So please donate and give super chats and whatever to my channel and coffees and so on, only if you have spare money. And if you have just like $5 to spend, please send it over to the Ukrainian fundraising that we're doing. I will try to make sure that to repeat these links while this program lasts, but please focus on supporting Ukraine. I'm going to be okay. Why not donate to both? No, of course you can donate to both. Like you can donate to me. I really appreciate that you do that. Like it's really helping me out a lot. But I'm just saying that if it's like a solo donation, right? Then if you have just like $5, then please focus first and foremost on Ukraine. Caitlin T, are North Korean troops more or less capable than the Orc troops? Do Kadyrovites also shook North Korean soldiers if they tried to retreat? Oh, by the way, Caitlin, that's a funny thing that you said. Firstly, are North Korean troops more or less capable? At the moment, they're less capable. But we know that they need time to learn the Russian tactics. And Russian tactics have been fleshed out to work with low skill combatants. So once the North Koreans learn these tactics, it's going to be utilized by North Koreans. The good news is, and actually the funny good news for the South Koreans, is because the way that Russia is using the troops is extremely inefficient. So if there is ever a war between North Korea and South Korea, I think it's like a huge benefit to the South Koreans that the North Koreans are actually learning from Russians, which are fielding one of the most inefficient armies that the world has ever seen. And let's be very straight why this is. Because the stockpiles that Russia has, plus the numeric advantage, plus the aviation advantage, what they have against Ukraine is ultimately defeating. On paper, Ukraine should have been run over 17 times over. But it didn't happen, and it still doesn't happen. I know people are reporting Russia is taking like some land and so on, but Russia is overextending and decimating their units just to go in those additional 1, 2, 3 kilometers. And while I understand Ukrainians and people that are really caring for Ukrainians for every single settlement and so on, when we kind of look at the bigger picture, and I'm explaining this in a lot of my videos, is that we can see that whatever Russia is doing it's like a big, slow grind. Like it takes them like literally a whole year just to achieve like a limited success with all of their might, with the ultimate aviation format, with a whole new technology of these aviation bombs that Ukraine has nothing to work with the ability to utilize the artillery to the larger scale, with the ability to produce drones en masse, with the ability to have the most docile army in the world. And they are achieving barely anything. So the fact that this is what Russia is using and how much it's sacrificing to gain as little is absolutely atrocious tactics. So it's actually kind of brilliant that North Koreans are going to be learning that. And then the second part of the question, what about Kadyrovites? Well, recently Kadyrov said that he's going to send 25,000 Kadyrov forces to fight the Ukrainians. Well, firstly, everything that Kadyrov says, you need to divide by 0 because let's be clear. So what you need to understand about Kadyrov forces, you've heard that they're like TikTok forces, and then like sometimes you can hear that there's Kadyrovites that are being captured by Ukrainians or being killed by Ukrainians, and they're fighting and taking over. How does this fit? Like, how do you square this circle? Well, what is happening is there are two types of Chechen fighters. So one was the Chechen fighters that were at the start of the war. They arrived in their fancy cars when they were invasion of Kiev, because they thought that they were just going to drive in, they're going to take over a lot of the territory of Ukraine, Ukrainians will surrender, and then they will just start torturing the local population and stealing stuff and so on. And they did it to an extent. But then they started getting significant casualties delivered to them, and they've been targeted significantly by the Ukrainians. And after they got a lot of casualties on their hands, Kadyrov actually withdrew their forces by some underhanded means back to Chechnya, stating that there is like a difficult situation in the region, so I need my forces. But after that, he was pressured to actually send fighters from Chechnya to fight to the Ukrainian armed forces. So Kadyrov created something that he calls the I forgot the name of the Kadyrov, the father of Kadyrov's battalion of Chechens. And the funny thing is that not battalion or brigade or whatever, so that unit, there's almost no Chechens in that unit. What they created is essentially incentive for people to come to Chechnya, study to fight the war in Chechnya from other regions of Russia, and then they put them into this Kadyrov's units, and then they send them over to fight in Ukraine. So in technicality, there are Kadyrov's units that are not containing almost any Chechens in those units. It's just Russian Ivans from all across the Russia that they are training in Chechnya, putting them this in Kadyrov's unit and then sending it over to Ukraine. Whereas there is the other force, which are actual Kadyrovites, Chechens, that are using the whole thing that is happening in Ukraine, and then they're riding over there, and then they're filming, making TikToks, and so on. So huge distinction between what is the Chechens fighting, because they're not really fighting, and what are these Kadyrovite units, Ahmad's units, exactly. So the unit of Ahmad. And then there is Ahmad. So Ahmad are the units, the battle units that are actually fighting, but they're consisting mostly of Ivans from other places in Russia. So he's basically not sending Chechens to fight, he's sending other Ivans. So the only thing that's going to happen by him stating that he's going to send 85,000 troops to fight Russia is it's going to be some weird underhanded tactic where he's going to take even more forces from, more manpower from other regions and then send it over. It's been a consistent scheme that he's been doing non-stop, and it's been playing very easy for him, very good for him. So that's why all of his words, all of his bravado about sending more fighters to fight against Ukraine, you could easily divide it by 0. Sorry for the longer answer, but it's just extremely funny. Eric Martinez, I heard that 8 officers and 18 North Koreans already got killed, and the 18 that ran away were executed by Russians. Haven't heard about the execution. I know that they were captured. Not sure about the executions. I would not be surprised if they were executed. That would be very, very North Korean-like. the 8 officers killed, again, this is something I've read, but I have no confirmation on that. And that was happening a little bit before. Caitlin, again, do you think a larger American force in South Korea would deter Kim Jong-un from sending more troops to Russia? I mean, yes, but Caitlin, let's be very honest. At least under Joe Biden, America doesn't really play with their muscles. Like, we're not really playing our muscle game. We're not really putting pressure on Putin in a sense of because the only thing that we're stating to Putin is what our red lines are and the things that we're not crossing, right? But we're not putting Putin in a position that he might be having some red lines that he might be crossing. We're not doing that yet. We're not threatening. And that is a problem, right? We are basically, the Western Alliance is acting like big pile of cocks, because we are just literally there cocking over Russia attacking Ukraine because nuclear war. I told already about that Russian nuclear weapons are dealing more damage already. They're already working for Putin. He doesn't need to use them because use of nuclear weapons achieves nothing for Russia. Absolutely nothing. But the way that they are being utilized now as a political pressure, they are only working if leaders of the Western Alliance are actually buying into this lie, into this flex. And what we've seen with Joe and Jake Sullivan and everything else, and obviously Schultz, is that they are literally buying this bullshit. And that is absolutely inexcusable. So I always think that we should put more pressure on the aggressor, on the dictator, and tell dictator that if he tries to attack in Ukraine more, then we will be sending more help to Ukraine, right? Not us stating like, oh, no, we will not allow Ukraine to send more weapons and so on. The only thing that I've heard about this so far was this like, oh, if North Koreans is going to enter the war, there will be no more restrictions to Ukraine. Bitch, why there are restrictions on Ukraine in the first place? So I will not start this rant, but you get my point. Searching for sanity. Should Taiwan be sending advisors intelligence to Ukraine? Absolutely. So, it's because the war that Taiwan is going to fight is going to be very different from the war that Ukraine is fighting. Ukraine is fighting massive land war. So I think if Taiwan is going to send in intelligence to exchange some kind of a learning facilities, then it's maybe like for the naval operations that Ukraine has been conducting. The way that Ukraine has been able to disable that overwhelming naval force of Russia. So I think only in that aspect. I don't really believe that land war in Taiwan would be a good option. The best option for Taiwan is not to get to the land war, period. Caitlin, again, do you think Kim would be okay with his troops being used as meat waves by the Russian? Yeah, of course, why not? Lou, right now Putin says he and Trump can end the war. I mean, like, hasn't he been sending this before? Like, I mean, like, that's been his... I mean, Trump literally stated that he's gonna just sell out Ukraine to Putin. So... Antonio Baroma, the clip at the beginning, can you post the link under the main video? You've shown it before. I'd like to share that video. Nobody sees my stuff on the Facebook anyways, but still I share it. Hey, Antonio, thank you so much for sharing. By the way, you sharing the clip is not about you sending the stuff. It's about the algorithm, because the algorithm picks up that. So it's important to share stuff. Yeah, I'll post the clip. You actually can find it on YouTube. It's called Each of Us Ukraine. Just Google Each of Us Ukraine. I'm pretty sure some of the moderators are gonna post that link to the chat at some point. Hello, Eric. Hello, did you hear about the 8 North Korean officers that got killed by Ukrainians and the 18 that ran away? Yeah, we just talked about this. Zoka, is there any news about GLSDB, why it fails? There's been long report, I covered this. Basically, the issue is they are not good enough to be used against the Russian electronic warfare systems. So they are too vulnerable. They are now being sent to rework. Most likely it will take additional year for them to be reworked before they start coming back. Awesome HPT. How nervous are you about the US presidential elections? If Trump wins, it's going to be really bad for Ukraine. True. However, I hear a lot of positive endorsements. So, I mean, you know, it's already the kind of the basically it's a couple of days before the election, right? So we did what we could. We did as much as we motivated as much as we could. We sent out stuff and so on. So you cannot really, if a person is dedicated of shooting himself in the foot, he's gonna do it. Doesn't matter if you try to convince him otherwise. And I've tried convincing as much as I could of Americans. There's been a lot of work also for the people mostly in US. Kamala's campaign has been very, very, very excellent. Trump has basically been, well, Trump, I mean, like that's what killing me the most, like that it's this guy that is supposedly unifying the Republican. It's pretty much atrocious, like the lowest of the low, like literally anyone. Yeah, I think we did what we could. We obviously should hope for the best, but am I worried? Yes, but is it worry that I would like to sustain, and is it something that I can do against? No. Did you watch the last video from Jake Bro? No, I haven't, unfortunately. Sorry. Yuhan the Saints. Should we keep track of equipment stockpiled from North Korea, Belarus, or other track their depletion? If you have means, be my guest. Please send me the data if you have it. If you're able to track equipment from North Korea, Belarus, that would be great. Arturas Luxas. Some time ago, you was stating that countdown of Russia loss will start when Ukraine receives F-16s. Since it happened, you are not stating that anymore. What changed? I mean, no. It's like, let's be very clear. So, F-16s, and this is something I've been stating from the beginning. F-16s is indeed the biggest game changer Ukraine is getting. But F-16s require mass. Okay? Couple of F-16s do nothing. When there is like 10 F-16s, it does almost nothing. We're talking about number of airframes in tens, preferably over 120 pieces. At that moment, it will be basically the end for Russia. Because without the air component, Russians will be just sitting ducks, because they have no ability to use complex tactics to defend against this. And it cannot do. The problem is that right now, F-16s that are arriving, they're still in very low quantities, and they're helping a lot. We already are hearing from now and then that like Russian airframes are being shut down. The Russian media bloggers, the Russian Z bloggers, have been suppressed on reporting on a lot of things, but I am hearing a lot of these planes are being shut down. And I am guessing that potentially a lot of it is done by the work of F-16s. So what I'm stating is that the countdown indeed begun, because the glass ceiling has been broken. The delivery of Western-style airframes was delivered to Ukraine. So Ukraine was not bound anymore by the Soviet weapons. There is still 17,000 different hurdles that Ukraine apparently needs to jump through to finally get weapons delivered to them. But it's already happening. So the countdown have started. I don't know what you want me to do to how to update you, because that was the whole point, that the glass ceiling has been broken and Ukraine is now receiving those F-16s. And when they're going to be in sufficient enough mass, it's going to start making significant dents with the Russian offensive capabilities. But it hasn't yet. Okay. And there's a repeat of a question. Holger asks, what to do about Schultz? Vote him out. I think it's next year elections you have. my friends with Germany. Vote him out. That's the only thing I could suggest. There's nothing. Apparently, he is completely tied in his ways. I think mostly because Joe Biden is enabling him. So I think if Joe Biden would be pressuring Schultz, then potentially he could be moved. But it's very clear that Joe Biden and Schultz have like unbreakable pact, and they've locked in their what is called like dick rings. So they have the love locks on their dick rings, and they've locked their attacking weapons and their manhood inside of their basements. So right now, nothing we can do. Vote for Kamala, vote for someone else than Schultz, and see if we can influence the new guy a little bit more. Okay. Next questions. David asks, how close is Ukraine coming to domestically produced long-range missiles? Already started. So what people, a lot of things have missed. So remember I stated that US is going to finance Ukraine drone production, long-range drone production. Well, what this 800 million that US is financing is specifically production of the jet drones of Ukraine. And if you didn't understand it before, a jet drone is basically a missile. So new types of relatively light missiles are going to be produced by Ukraine themselves, and US is helping financing it. Mies van der Gwick. Are the Patriots still being used in frontline ambushes, or it was a one-time thing? No, after that one was destroyed, I don't really believe that Patriots are being used for offensive purposes anymore. That one was targeted and destroyed. Since then, it's not been used. Colin G, do you think this will be an intelligence goldmine for South Korea and the West when North Korean soldiers are eventually captured, interrogated, once transferred? No, I don't believe, like, look, listen. So it's very clear that US intelligence is so good that they basically know whenever Putin is going down to the shitter. Oftentimes, we're getting intelligence from Putin that we're getting leaked to public. It's clear that they have like the spies in the closest circle of Putin that are reporting to allies. It's very clear that US intelligence is deep enough to know a lot of things about the world. So that's why I don't believe that there is like a lot of things to gain. Can there be improved? Of course. Sure. Okay, next question. Sorry, I'm sometimes just missing the questions. It's like a wall of text. Colin D, do you think this will be an... Okay, no, that's the intelligence question. The K team. Israel has been weak on Russian invasion considering its connections with Iran. Do you see any signs of this changing for Ukraine's better, aside from the gift of Iran rocket facility days ago? No, it doesn't seem that there is a lot of cooperation between Israel and Ukraine. I mean, Bibi is a big friend of Putin. We know that for sure. Yeah, Israel has been very, very self-focused lately. And I mean, I'm not a friend. I'm not a big... like, Bibi is not a person that I respect too much. I don't like him. And he has been not very good, not very positive and forthcoming to Ukraine. Sweden, can you comment on the thermobaric Shahid drones? I mean, like, people have been telling about this thermobaric. Like, I mean, thermobaric is bad, but like, what is it supposed to do? Like, let's divide things and start thinking about this. What it's supposed to do. So, a kinetic weapon such as let's say a bomb, it's supposed to destroy things. So if we're talking about a Shahid, then it's a bomb that is flying and then it lands somewhere and destroys something. Mostly what they would want to destroy is like some kind of building, it inflicts some damage. That's the great. And then there are thermobaric weapons. Thermobaric weapons is essentially 21st century flamethrowers. Those are, like, if you don't know what thermobaric is, it's a two-stage bomb where first stage detonates and it essentially spreads fuel in a large cloud around a large area. And then the second part detonates and it creates volumetric explosion, like a big fireball that basically kills a lot of living things inside of that fireball. And it has a larger area and it can kind of go around like regular defenses around the corners. It's extremely good to use, for example, inside of locked spaces, like in a room or something. It destroys everything in there. So, but it doesn't create as much damage. At least depends on the scale, obviously. If it's a big enough bomb, then obviously it's going to create damage. But generally speaking, its focus is to exterminate the living things. So can it be more sufficient to have these Shahed drones, like a long flying missiles that are dedicated to destroy living things? Well, yeah, but like, wouldn't it be better for the drones to strike and destroy the actual facilities that Ukraine has? Like, even we're talking plants, I don't know, electric plants, substations, you know, railways, things like that, that would actually make an impact. Like, don't get me wrong. A killing of Ukrainians is absolutely horrific. It's absolutely war crime, and I'm hoping Russia will be punished for it. But if you zoom out and start thinking about, well, what does it achieve strategically? Well, that's why I'm kind of like, okay, so it's a thermobaric weapon. It's just different type of boom. Jabato, have there been fewer Ukrainian drone attacks on refineries lately? If so, there is reason for that. The shift towards new kind of targets is concentrating on the Russian airfields. Two things. Firstly, Russia started protecting the oil facilities. So Ukraine switched to some other facilities that have not been protected. So Russia is forced to essentially shuffle their anti-air systems more. Plus, right now, Russia has built the anti-drone nets over majority of their oil production facilities. So if Ukraine wants to hit those facilities again, they would need to evolve the types of drones that are flying in and how they are destroying these facilities. So it's the standard evolution between the shield and a spear. Can you comment on... Oh, thermobaric, okay, I already did it. James Warman, will Russia win in the long run? No. No. Listen, like, why am I so ironclad on Russia not winning long term? Because the only way Russia wins, if we just give up. That's the only thing, that the possibility. Like that, and I want us to be very, very clear about this. When we're talking about Russia winning, the only victory that Russia can get is the victory that we, the Western Alliance, are going to give it to her. Right? That's it. There is no other option. Russia is not winning. They don't have resources. Already with the army that Ukraine has now, Russia do not have the resources to essentially defeat it. So the only thing that Russia can do is try to prolong this, try to pretend that they are winning, try to throw some dust into your eyes. Russia is a pretend state. In the same way that they're pretending that their economy is doing super good, super well, they've been spending their monies, they've been essentially selling off any kind of future prosperity growth possibilities just to make sure that they can deliver reports into the international monetary funds and the world banks that don't look like absolute garbage. To kind of state, so Putin can come up before the TV cameras and state, oh, Russian economy doing so well. Well, in fact, they weren't. But that's the pretend state. Fake it till you make it. That's literally the motto of the Russians. And we in the Western Alliance, the Western world, we have the easiest job ever. We're helping Ukraine with absolute minimum. We are helping Ukraine to fight this war on cheap for us. Majority of people, we didn't even notice that we're helping Ukraine. We didn't even notice. Yeah, there is like been some impact in the Europe because I'm sorry, but this was not Ukraine. This was our mistake. Like, we didn't need to fully be dependent on a dictatorial power that's been for years telling that they want to assault Europe and they want to fight against Europe. So, because we were so dependent on the Russian oil and gas, that's why it hurt some places in Europe. But the money that we're sending to Ukraine is fluff. Like, it's nothing. It's basically nothing. Your life haven't changed. Like, if suddenly, if you're in US and suddenly there is no more help from US to Ukraine, it's not gonna impact your life at the slightest. Because the money that is being spent in Ukraine is like a dust. I think it was like 0.1% of GDP or 0.01% of GDP. I believe it was like, so it's less than 1% of the GDP of United States that is being spent to Ukraine. So for United States, imagine if you get like a salary increase suddenly, and it's like you're like coming back to the job. Wow, how much salary increase do I get? And they say 0.01%. You get me? And the same goes for Europe. Like, it's been problematic for Europe, but not because of Ukraine. It's because of what we've been doing before with Russia. It has nothing to do with us supporting Ukraine. So we have the easiest job in the world. We are barely spending any resources. Our lives haven't changed in the slightest. Like, we're still living as a peacetime. With that minimal help, Ukraine is basically decimating the Russian military. They're paying the ultimate price. Their guys, the best of the best in their country, are dying and spilling blood. And we have the easiest job in the world. Just continue with this. We are the strongest alliance in the world. We have the ultimate production base. We have the ultimate resource base. We have the ultimate military base. And yet, some dumb shit garbage country with people that are living in dirt dares to try to dictate how we should live. What a joke. My biggest argument has always been that democracies must protect themselves. I like democracies with big fucking guns. So not even a single second-hand dictatorship that are living in shit and only able to sustain and pretend that they're a real country because of that incredible oil money that we're paying to them. They have no say on how we are conducting our world, how we're conducting our business. And when they start doing it, they need to be put back into their place where they fucking belong. And that has been my position beforehand, and it's this position still. And the only way that we're still discussing why Russia is doing what they're doing is because there are people in our governments that are letting them. Russia is a cosplaying as a country, precisely. Russian problems is paying their soldiers. Is that true? No. The soldier pay in Russia is a very, very minimal, how do you say, expense line for their military budget. Make Russia small again. Yeah, I will make a t-shirt, by the way, so we have it. So it's going to be a t-shirt in our shop, so I can get the Make Russia Small Again. Let's go, next question. Steve Ike, it looks to me that Ukrainians were the backbone of the Soviet army. Your thoughts? I mean, they were definitely on the front line, and Russians were obviously in favor of sacrificing Ukrainians rather than Russians. So they were one of the first, like as the same as Russia is doing right now. Majority of sacrifices to the Russian armed forces have been, first and foremost, people from the occupied areas in Ukraine that have been forced mobilized, and also the minorities inside of Russia. You think it's a coincidence? It's not. And after this war, because there's going to be less minorities, Russia is going to impose more of their culture across the region and says, oh, you've been always Russians. It's what they tried doing with the Baltics. It's what they've been trying to do with Ukrainians, stating that the Ukraine never existed and so on. You think this is all happening for nothing? No, that's been in the Russian playbook for centuries. And my biggest frustration is that we're allowing them to do it. Judgment Day, November 5. Yes. So far, the polls, everything looks pretty good for Kamala. So I'm really hopeful for the November 5. I'm going to do a big stream, by the way. There's going to be a big, long stream on November 5. We're going to talk a lot. We're going to have predictions. So if you have still no things that you want to do during the election night, you're welcome to join. Nathaniel K. Zogar, what happened if South Korea joins the war in Ukraine? They won't. Lil Bubs, can you talk about the second army Ukraine's building for 2025? Will it be used offensive operations or will it be used in an active defense for attrition force against force? So the second army should always be the assaulting army, not a defending army. And I don't want to talk more about this because the things that I know, I'm afraid I haven't heard them in the Russian channels. So it's not a public information in Russia. So I'm kind of withholding it. Like that's just my OPSEC scenarios, the thing that I know about about the Ukrainian military. And secondly, I don't want to sabotage at all for Ukrainians. So, no, not like that. I don't want to start building expectations with you that there's going to be some kind of a big switch and turn in 2025 for Ukraine. That is not my message, and I hope I will not be like, if you see me doing that message, that suddenly you start thinking, I was like, wow, 2025 really is going to be a turnout year for Ukraine. No. Hold your fucking horses. Make it like stop. It's going to happen when it's going to happen when it's going to happen. John H. Slav Ukraini. I read some of the fearmongers about Ukraine's electrical grid going down due to the more Russian strikes this winter. Is the real concern, and how much has it affected Ukraine so far? It's been a big uptick in Ukrainian energy production since the most critical points around the end of summer, I would like to say. Since then, Ukrainians were able to prevent a lot more damage to their grid, so they're a lot more secure. They've got up and running a lot of their nuclear capabilities back, and I mean nuclear energy. So Ukraine is going to be okay. It's also a country that is a lot more prepared on an individual level by the people, so it's not going to be something bad. So it's going to be okay. Michael098. Hi, Georgie. You told Ukrainian choose to trade off land to save equipment and people. But isn't land exactly what the Russians want, so they have a better trade-off positions to make a deal with Trump? Yes, Michael, absolutely correctly. Yes, that is very, very true. You're absolutely right. Spot on. It's great that my message is landing. So Russia is trying to pretend. They're trying to sell off that they're capturing everything. So when they come, for example, if Trump comes, and that's their big bet, to the political table with Putin, and then they start disabling, it's like, okay, well, we're going to keep the land that we took, and then maybe we're going to trade off some of that land to Ukraine, for example, so Ukraine returns the Kursk area. So let's say Russia will keep Crimea, the corridor to Crimea, and then Ukraine will get some of the northern lands back and return the Kursk to Russia, something like this. It's a stupid argument. Like, I don't want to delve into this. It's not my argument. That's why I'm not going to take it apart. But that's the logic behind it. So they want to get as much as possible if that scenario will come to pass, no matter the cost. So land is important, yes, but for Ukrainians, they are looking long-term because Ukrainians will not stop fighting. For Ukraine, going to negotiating table is not really a solution. I really expect that Ukraine will go nuclear first before they will start going to the negotiating table. I really believe that Ukraine will develop the nuclear bomb before they will get engaged some kind of a negotiations beforehand. I heard that Ukraine and Russia are doing talks to not attack each other energy production. Is that a good thing or not? It's understandable thing. So obviously it would be more beneficial if Ukraine just would be able to just continue attacking Russia. But it's it's a trade-off. And Zelensky is very caring for the people in Ukraine. So potentially he would want to trade off some of that stability. It's been mostly rumors. I haven't heard anything concrete, but if it's happening, it's not something... I don't feel that it's going to be a big benefit for Russia. but I also think that it's going to benefit both Russia and Ukraine. Like, let's be very, very clear. It's obviously going to be more beneficial to Russia, but there's going to be a huge benefit to Ukraine as well. Because for Ukraine, having their economy up and running is crucial. Turkish truth hurts. NATO supplying arms. Don't forget, it's the Russians is taking on all the military force from all the arms being supplied from many countries are still being successful. Well, wait, okay, I need to do this. Doesn't read right correctly. So NATO supplying arms. Don't forget, it's like Russia is taking on all the military force from all the arms being supplied from many countries and still being successful. I have no, if it's a question, I have no idea what that question is. Guys, if you can translate what it meant, please do, but I have no fucking clue what he means. Tosanabe, do you read the Shield AI's VBAT electronic warfare resistant drones story? Do we know more about them? How often Ukraine using them? No, I haven't read it. So I'm going to save this as an article for me to look into it. So far, I don't know what it is. Yes. That was a troll mate. Yeah, okay. That's fine. We have plenty of those, but thankfully we have the moderating team, so he's going to be taking out very, very soon. But yeah, I had no idea. Like, why are the trolls so fucking stupid? Like, if you want to troll out, can you at least, like, make it sound coherent? You know? Like, but, like, because they're so brain dead, they just cannot even put together a sentence that it's not shit. Like, dude, like, at least be a troll, but, like, come at least, I don't know, like, learn to fucking spell. Jesus. Ramon Rivera, do you think Putin would fall if he called for general mobilizations he him super so afraid of? No, he wouldn't fall. No, I don't think so. Dilf Hobonik, do you think Russian will advance further than the oblast they annexed in September 2022? Okay, do you think the Russians will advance further than the oblasts they annexed in September 2022? Russians are 9 kilometers away from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast near Velika Novosilka. So the question is, will Russia advance as far as they were in September 2022? Let me September 2022, I believe that's where the Kyiv still was. So if I'm not understanding this correctly, then it's like, will Russia still advance to Kyiv? And the answer is not at this tempo, not with the way that they're doing it right now. Russia has been fighting with their super efficient, super successful fighting. They've been spending tens of thousands of troops and incredible amounts of equipment just to fight for one region of Ukraine, and not even fighting for the main parts of that region. The core settlements in that region are still there. So Russia is not even close at moving towards those. Russia has not been successful in any breakthrough whatsoever. Like, this has not been the case. So Russia not going to suddenly just move in and just capture everything that Ukraine owns. That's simply not what's happening. Ukrainians are more competent than that. Yes, they're withdrawing certain places. Yes, they're having certain issues for sure, but they are not allowing Russia any kind of breakthroughs. It's basically for Russia a fight for every city, every settlement, every stretch of the land. And they've been, like, there is no army in the world, even Russia right now, that can reach even close towards Kyiv. Simp, do you think Ukraine can military expel Russia from the territories in the long run, or we are too far down the casualties that we need boots on the ground from Baltics, Poland? Great question, Simp, by the way. Great question. I love the name, by the way. So, can Ukraine actually expel Russia? This is a question that has a couple of answers. The answer number one, if we continue with what we have right now, like in economics, it's called ceteris paribus. So all things equal. If we agree that Ukraine is going to get tens of billions of dollars from the allies, if the production of Ukraine is going to increase, if the factories that the allies are building are going to continue coming online, and Ukraine will see more and more weapons being supplied from the allied factories and so on, the newly built equipment, with Russia continuously running out of their stocks, being more and more dependent on raw, basically human wave tactics, riding on the motorcycles, yes, I believe that tendency slowly over time will mean that Russia is going to run out of their main advantage, which is mass. Once Russia runs out of mass and Ukraine gets its mass, then at that moment the scales will tip. And that's the resource fighting. Once the scales are tipped, that's when the problems start arising. Second option. What about if it's some kind of a big breakthrough, big change that would allow one side or the other to just undercut the other party and go into the maneuver warfare? Maneuver warfare is completely opposite to the resource fighting, the attrition warfare, where one party, even with less resources, can be extremely efficient. This is what we've seen with Ukraine so far, and we haven't seen with Russia. What Russia has done is basically Russia pigeonholed themselves into this type of fighting. And the problem for Russia is that it is seemingly succeeding for Russia. So because this was succeeding for Russia, Russia centered their whole ways of using the army to fight this specific type of warfare. And they are not seemingly even exploring any kind of maneuver possibility warfare. With their quality of the troops, I'm not even sure that they know how to do maneuver warfare. Because to do maneuver warfare, you need to be really efficient. We've seen this done by Ukraine on a localized level. We've seen this done by some of the Ukraine elite units. And that's why, for example, in the Kursk operation, were the elite units that are operating, not the like regular Ukrainian fighting units or new brigades, because it's going to be hard for Ukraine. So for Russia, I completely do not see maneuver warfare altogether, just because their attrition and rate is too high. They don't get enough rate to train their troops to know how to fight differently. For Ukraine, while they're preserving a lot of their core experienced units, I feel that the scale of those core units would only allow for localized offensives. So I feel that there cannot be any kind of major breakthrough from one side or the other. Then the third option, if there would be some kind of third party that would came in and break the balance, and I just don't see it. The only party that can really tip the scales of the resource warfare for Russia is China. It's literally it. Only if China fully will allow the use of their resources and maybe even their military, that's when we were going to see Ukraine collapse. But that is already different type of war, right? We're not already at that moment talking a war between Russia and Ukraine. We're talking about, you know what we're talking about. And yeah, so yes, I feel that what we have on the table does show that over time, Ukraine will have the capabilities to push Russians out of their territory. It's going to take a lot. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to be very devastating. I'm voting pro. Aidan is saying, I'm voting pro Trump, but still pro-Ukraine. Why do you hate Trump so much? Because you're lying. Because you're gaslighting all of us. Because being pro-Ukraine means doing things for Ukraine. Selecting a person in charge of the most powerful nation in the world is the main and important things to do pro-Ukraine. So when you're saying, I'm such a pro-Ukraine, I'm yelling about this everywhere, I'm writing it in your comments section, what you're doing is you're gaslighting me, you're gaslighting everyone, or sorry, I'm just going to use lying. You're just lying. You're lying to me, you're lying to everyone, and you're lying to yourself. You are pretending that you care for Ukraine, because what you're doing is virtue signaling. You're just stating that you like Ukraine. Because when it comes to the actual actions, when it comes to actually doing for Ukraine, you are betraying Ukraine on the fundamental level. Trump, in no uncertain terms, have said that what he wants to do is surrender for Ukraine to surrender the Putin. And the fact that you don't want to believe it because it's a cult, because you just don't want to see Trump for what he is, I don't know. Whatever lies you tell yourself. I mean, it's a cult, so it doesn't matter what I say, right? So it doesn't get more anti-Ukraine than that. To get a person, the most powerful person in the world, that can define whether we win or lose this war and how shitty of a world we're going to live in, you say, fuck Ukraine, I don't care enough. And therefore, when you state I am pro-Ukraine, you are a liar. And you're lying to me, you're lying to everyone here, and you're lying to yourself. Fuck you. Okay, I lost the comment again. There we go. Michael019, Trump's way of solving things is always to make a certain deal. Do you think Ukraine could use this, create a deal, which is a way beneficial for them? Listen, Trump's deal, first and foremost, is a fake one. The art of the quote-unquote deal is been like literally written by everyone, by a different guy. It's not Trump. Like, the only thing that I believe Trump on is that he has no plan. That he maybe has concepts of the plan. Trump sucks at everything. Mostly, he sucks a virtual dick on stage so far. He offered nothing. Even the Trump supplied javelins is actually a red herring, because the javelins were supplied by essentially Congress pressuring Trump and forcing him to send those, that he didn't have any other option. He'd help Ukraine with nothing. He's been sucking up to dictators, and that's the only thing that he did. And by this point, I know that I'm not convincing anyone, right? People can say, I was like, oh, your offensive rhetoric can make other people, to think that they should vote Trump just to spite you. Fair point. But the thing is, I mean, like, if you haven't decided by now, I'm not sure that there is anything else I can say that can make it sure. What I don't appreciate is for people lying to my face. And that's why, like, when people say, it's like, oh, I'm really pro-Ukraine, but I support Trump. It's like, yeah, you're just a liar. Cornelis, repeat, should Ukraine attack export oil refineries when things go south, as sort of a nuclear offensive to retaliate? I mean, yeah, for sure. Ukraine should consider attacking any targets inside Russia that they can reach and fight. Renault Vation, have you heard about the documentary on YouTube about the Kherson drones called Shadows Across the River? No, I haven't heard about that documentary, sorry. How close is Ukraine coming domestically producing long-range weapons capable of reaching and destroying targets deep in Russia? Very close. It's the jet-propelled drones that are the most interesting development. I'm going to be really interested to see when it's going to be combined. When it's going to be, for example, a regular drones that Ukraine is stating, and maybe I'm giving away too much, but then they have like a jet-propelled booster. You get me? Like, so there's like a drone, but it's like jet-propelled drone that then just booster falls off or something, and then it's just regular flight. So there are options. There are a lot of developments and so on. Right, let's read a couple of super chats because there has been some. Ki Hansen, hi, appreciate it. Andre Knudsen, thank you so much for 17 kroners. Ki Hansen, thank you so much for giving away 5 memberships. Appreciate it. Hansi Exen, have Russian problems with paying their soldiers? Is that true? No, not really. Mr. Nobody, Russia is cosplaying a country. Yes, the K-Team people treat the invasion like a football game. They need to develop some empathy and humanity. K-Team, yes. And like, I really hope that every time when someone says that they shouldn't be treating the war as a football game, it should be said to them for them not to, but it's also very hard for people to understand war that haven't experienced this, right? So we need to understand that it's hard for people to understand. So that's why people are asking me like silly questions, essentially like who is winning now? You know, it's like it's a stupid question because everyone is losing. There is no winners. QR, Ukraine matters. I wouldn't be surprised if the troll was a Trumper since he sounded exactly like Trump when speaking incoherent, nonsensical, and rambling BS. Yeah, probably. Ellie, fuck Trump, fuck MAGA, vote blue. Absolutely. Oms, voted blue for democracy in Ukraine. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Look, and I want this to be very, very clear. I don't like Kamala. Okay? Let's be very, very, very clear. I don't really like Kamala. I don't really like Joe. Shocker. I know, right? I can shit on Kamala. Maybe not on Kamala because I haven't seen her policies yet, like some of it. Like I've read through her program and stuff. But if she would be in our European elections, hell no, I'll be vote for her. Like that would be absolutely incredible. But because US system is so backwards, and like people from US know this better than I do. Like I don't need to. Like, and I'm pretty sure there are people that like Kamala, but it's just not me. But when we're looking in the mirror and when we're considering what is there, who are the opposition, and so on, then obviously Kamala is the option. Like, it's as clear as day. Listen, I would love us all to get our perfect candidate every time that we go on elections. I would love that, like, you know, I wouldn't even need to consider because I already know who I'm voting for, and that would be exactly where my vote goes to. But we're not living in a perfect world. We're living in what we have. And the thing is, we need to understand what matters for us. We need to understand what is important for us. And then sacrifice the things that we're ready to sacrifice. So when we're stating, like, I'm going to vote Kamala, I know there's a lot of people that are Republicans and are going to vote for Kamala because they're putting the country before party, which is completely against what the system has been building you up for decades. Yeah, Tim Walz, actually, I like Tim Walz. Like, Tim Walz is pretty fun, but let's not get derailed. But the point is that we are sacrificing something. What I want us all is to be honest with what we're doing, right? What I want us to be is like, if we are voting for Trump because, you know, I don't know, like why anyone could like him, right? Let's say they like how charismatic he is. You know, it's like, let's give him something. They like how charismatic he is. I want people to tell me, you know, I vote him because I just don't think that Kamala is charismatic enough. You know, I can respect that. I can truly respect people's honesty. What I do not respect is when people say is like, well, I totally support all of these policies that are, you know, goes against what Trump stands for, but I'm still voting Trump. Because that moment it's lying. So when I say we should vote Kamala, this gets us closer to the world that I would want to be in, despite everything. And because this channel is about Ukraine, then I'm very single-minded about what's important for us, right? And because you're spending your Saturday evening here, I am guessing for a lot of you it is as well. Kamala might not be for everyone. Kamala might not be for me. If I had like infinite options and I would have my perfect candidate, most likely it would not be her. But in this election, you have two options, a red and a blue. And as silly as it sounds, the correct one is the blue. Kamala is pro-Ukraine, you're moron. Hey, Mans, you know, like, people have been trying to educate me about the US politics, And what I found out is I know a lot more than people then think that they can educate me on politics, especially when people write me in all caps about how someone is pro-Ukraine, how someone is anti-Ukraine, and so on, and like how I don't like Kamala because I'm sexist or whatever. You know, there's like been 1,001 things. Like, my response is always the same. Haters gonna hate, you know? I'm not running this channel, like I'm not a public figure, I'm not a politician and so on. I'm a guy on YouTube, right? So I have my opinion, I'm just sharing this opinion. What I'm stating is that Kamala is a better option than Trump. But is she the person that's gonna, for example, switch the way that the war is fighting? And I've been stating this before. We talked about this when we were discussing the debate between Kamala and Donald Trump. And I explained, with the debate, as she was talking, I explained that she said absolutely zero on how she would be different from from Joe Biden's position. So Kamala Harris, for me, as a Ukraine supporter and a critical thinker, has presented very little encouraging things, that her policies will be much better than Joe Biden's, which were, and I truly think, atrocious for Ukraine. But when we're talking about atrociously helping Ukraine, but still helping, it's definitely a million times better than just selling Ukraine out, selling democracy out. Obviously, I would go for Kamala. And if you truly like Kamala, good for you. Good for you. It's great that you actually have a candidate that you can vote for. What I'm stating is that for a lot of people that I've interacted with, it's not the case. There is a lot of people that do not feel the same passion and liking to a lot of to Kamala Harris as you do. And what I'm trying to do here is trying to explain that she is best that we have right now for Ukraine. We can hope that she would be better than what Joe Biden did, because there has been a lot of areas where I believe his policy on Ukraine was lacking. And I hope that she will be better. But so far, I haven't heard something better. So please be very clear to vote blue. And after she's elected, we're going to start considering what kind of pressure we can deliver to her, what kind of messages we can deliver her to make sure she reconsiders the policies that Biden has introduced. I hope this is clear. Vote blue. Okay, sorry for the. I'm really cannot wait until election is over. Hutch, I wouldn't have been caught dead voting for Kamala on today's Democrats in any other circumstance but this one. The only thing Trump has achieved to push significant portion of his party away, it's time to rebuild red. My point exactly. Like, Hutch, you know, like what I think. And I'm sorry for this to be starting to go into political, but this is like November 5 effect, right? Okay, so bear with me. So I think like it's important for us in democracy, people living in democracy, to realize that having different opinions and discussing those different opinions is good. It's great to have various opinions and talk about different perspectives, because that is democracy. We are people, we are different. Democracy is not perfect. This has never been perfect, but it is something that gets us someplace where majority of opinions can at least be discussed. What Trump is offering is completely undemocratic. He is proposing to take down democracy. That's why, like, I hear people, and I'm expecting that Hutch that wrote here that he was the Republican, to get over this and start actually rebuilding the Republican Party that at least can play by the understanding that democracy must be preserved, that we might disagree, that having a good opinion or a bad opinion can be weighted out and we can dunk it out on some kind of debate ring or something. Then we can move forward as a society. But if we are just denying the reality of democracy, we are not getting us anywhere. We're just discussing how to get ourselves into non-democratic state and stop being part of this major, most powerful alliance in the world, in the history of the world, which I am very proud to be of. So we already seen the effects of it, right? Remember the debate between Walz and J.D. Vance. So I'm not a big fan of J.D. Vance. I do like Walz somehow. I think he's very charismatic. I like his charisma talks to me, right? I haven't seen his policies, so it's and how he was governing, so I'm not going to comment on this. This is where my knowledge is lacking. So if you know more about Walz, please don't judge me on this. I just like his charisma of this old guy. He's just hilarious on that. But what was most important about that debate about the Walz and J.D. Vance is, were there some lies? Yes. Were there some over exaggerations? Yes. Were there some half-truth and disagreements? Absolutely yes. But you know what there was? Civility, normalcy, the perception that this can go back to discussing like what kind of policy we're having and so on. That we're not going to be discussing whether or not democracy will be at stake at the next election. That was crucial. And the fact that was, and we've seen this before, that we've seen that there are possibilities for normalization going forward. If people want to rebuild the Red Party in their new... Yeah, I know a lot of people have different opinions about Walz and Vance. It's understandable. But I'm stating about the spirit of it. And the normalcy is right there within touch. We just need to overcome the steps. Okay. Sorry for this political talking, but it's like the 5th November effect. Let's carry on. So, message from today: vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Vote blue this election. And as Hutch said, if you are a Republican, then start rebuilding the red after that. Vote for blue and start rebuilding the red. Okay. Georgie, your comments are going to be... Yeah, I don't care about whether my comments are going to insult. Like, usually when I'm talking, I kind of got used to that I'm insulting about a third of my audience anywhere. So, I mean, I'm just telling what I think. You know, my opinion is my opinion. I hope it's okay. I like you to share your opinion, right? That would be nice. Like, share your opinion, share your arguments. It's always welcome. This is a channel that supports democracy, that supports discussion. Pluto, you never ever deal with Orange Shit Clan, Georgie. It's the only... Okay, that's again Trump. I already said. We're going to skip over all of the US comments because it's getting kind of repetitive. I don't want to get into it. We're going to have a long stream during the election, and we're going to talk mostly US politics, and you're going to come in and say that I shouldn't go in US politics, so... Never mind me, I just injected a whole weed. That's a great nickname, by the way. Conspiracy time. Do you think all those generals and admirals who still running, who're still unsure of if they were ended but haven't been seen in many months were actually hit? Or can generals like that hide? So Russia has changed the structure of their army, so generals are less vulnerable. So there, like, I mean, have been a lot of officers killed? Yes. Have there been like a lot of officers targeted? Yes. But Russia also changed the way that they're operating to make sure officers are better preserved. So a lot of officers of Russia, even the lower ranking ones, are just never leaving the underground. So they're just spending their whole time in the underground. That's why they're not even appearing on the front lines. What about your stream title? I talked about it at the beginning. So there have been reports that North Koreans have been targeted, but because I couldn't verify it, and I'm just running with the stream title, so sorry if this is confusing everyone. Like, maybe I'm gonna rename this in a recording. Hi, who is producing the most FPV drones? Ukraine. Matt Harris, do you think the double meaning of MRSA as the most deadly staph infection that causes the body to rot from the infection site should be associated with Putin as biohazard that will make Russia small? I don't know, maybe? Okay. Team Moments, what about 2025 Belarus elections? Okay, guys, we need to stop using the word elections with Russia and Belarus, please, okay? Like, you can call it any way you want, just don't call it elections. I've seen this in so many medias about all of this, like what about elections in Russia and so on. It's like, please stop using the word elections. Use something else, just don't call it elections. It's a red herring. Robert Babak, I disagree with you, Georgie. Kamala simply cannot win, but I welcome your expressing your opinions. We value free speech here, and I value the great Ukraine analysis and give you. Hey, thank you, Robert. It's okay to disagree with me. By the way, thank you. Thank you. I obviously expressed my opinion. It's not aligning. It's great that you're having an opinion. I'm respecting your opinion. I'm just glad that you are you're here. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Appreciate it. I love democracy. I love democratic opinion. Democracy is great. I just think that I'm very strong on my opinions sometimes, and you guys pretty much know that, but we are where we are. Ukraine filmed The Witch Revenge 2024. I don't know if that is a question or something. Maybe it's something else before. I don't know. Jenna Dry, Georgie, have you heard much about the work of the Chosen Company? Are there more than them in the International Legion? Chosen Company. I've heard about them. I haven't followed their work significantly, but I don't know about the quantities and a lot of the stuff that International Legion works very closely with the Ukrainian intelligence, so a lot of their operations are very highly like classified, and there is like very limited information that is available about their activities, unfortunately. Do you view yourself as a news aggregator, or do you have better sources than you think the mainstream media has? Never mind. Look, so when we started this war, like this channel and myself, I obviously knew more because at that moment I was able to read Russian, Ukrainian. I knew where the Russians and Ukrainians were talking. The media was like 7 days behind the curve. So it was easy at the end. Now we're in a completely different scenario, right? Everyone has their own analysts. Media has established their own connections. They've caught up, and obviously I cannot compete with the any kind of big media. Therefore, what I'm offering mostly is my viewpoint, my opinion, and this is what this channel is running on. I don't consider this channel to be a news channel. I consider this channel to be an opinion channel. It's just I'm building a lot of that opinion on the news that are presented there, and I believe that, I mean, like, in my opinion, I feel that a lot of times certain things are missed. So I'm hoping to present some kind of a view on things that I hope is going to resonate with people. And it sometimes does. So while like I cannot consider myself a news source, but I do verify my news data. I am a data nerd. I like going through data. Like, I love looking at Excel spreadsheets. That's my best news source. But I know a lot of people can't do that. I love listening to a lot of the experts, and like especially like some kind of niche experts. Like, for example, people that go into the details, you know, what about like the drone components procurements, stuff like that, or when we're talking about logistics, yeah, what are the most vulnerable things to procure on like Ukrainian tanks or stuff like that? You know, the absolute nerdy shit. And I really like doing all of that, and that takes a lot of time. So when I'm talking, my expectations are that I'm talking to someone that has a main job, that has a life, that has a family, and they have a little bit of time to kind of get up to speed what's happening. And I'm sorry for the saying that, but like essentially who is winning? Like that's kind of the people that's kind of the people that I'm trying to appeal. So I'm trying to condense a lot of information into digestible format, and so far it's been working out, and I'm really grateful for everyone that is watching me and supporting this channel, and most importantly supporting Ukraine. That is the most crucial for me, and the amount of work that we have been doing is incredible. Like this channel has gathered over 1.05 million dollars for the help of the Ukrainian armed forces, and it is incredible. Like that is what matters. Ukraine matters, and I'm no joking about it. I'm skipping a lot of the US-based comments, so sorry if I'm skipping your question about US. Is the Orkish fleet completely removed from the Black Sea and left sit in ports in Azov? Or no, there's still some corners of the Asia around Rostov-on-Don. They're coming out here and there, but mostly they are not operating in the Black Sea. Never mind me, if some hackers were to be watching you, which Orkish website would be awfully convenient to stop functioning? Which Orkish website would be awfully convenient to stop functioning? So if you really want to get into that, right? So the best thing, so a lot of the Z channels on Telegram, what they're doing is they are gathering donations like we are. And because the Z channels, they are usually using a lot of the like Russian banks, Russian operators, and so on. They're using a lot of the phone numbers and so on. So real actual impact would be trying to disable a lot of their cards and so on. And this is what for example, some of the Russian resistance that I know that have been doing, and Ukrainian civilian resistance have been doing. So what they've been doing is they've been looking and following these fundraisers that Russians are doing, and they've been targeting these cards. They've been trying to call banks saying that they have found some kind of card and they're trying to disable that card. Then they've been trying to disable the phone numbers in similar ways and so on. So if there is something that the hackers can do that can bring specific value to Ukrainians, it's attacking these kind of transaction points, the interactions between the larger publics of the Russians, where they're trying to contribute to some kind of specific source things. For example, there was one successful case where hackers were able to essentially break into the Amazon, not Amazon, but the Alibaba accounts, from the China. And they found out the accounts that Russian were procuring a lot of drone components, and instead they deleted from the order a lot of drone components, and they ordered like a whole bunch of dildos. So for all of those drones that they've gathered the money, instead Alibaba has delivered like a whole bunch of dildos to them. It was incredibly funny. So that's kind of the thing that I would expect like some kind of individual hackers would do, like on levels, like stuff like that. Jim the Saints, do you think Europe will unite more in the near future, particularly in military manner, which the US has historically held back? Yes, I do. So right now, the only kind of barrier that there is between Europe's unification is Germany, unfortunately. I think there is a lot of push from France to do a lot more for Europe. And I feel that a lot of Nordics have taken a lot more hawkish stance on defense of Europe. So it's clear that we could see some kind of alliance between France, Northern Europe, and if we will see Germany stop resisting that finally, with maybe some kind of new government or something like this, then we can see a very significant militarization of Europe coming in. So yes. By the way, like there is like a thing, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek, like something from the, so you know, like I usually talk about like some of the Ukrainian fighters that are talking about the stuff. There, I have another comment. I've showed you this on my what is it called? I showed you one of the Ukrainian fighters beforehand, and he was talking, giving this higher level strategical analysis. And I want to show you this. So let's transition to this one. Yes. So this is also from a guy, which is a Ukrainian, I believe he's like a lower ranking officer, maybe a lieutenant or something. So it's not completely clear what his rank is for me, but he's definitely a Ukrainian warrior. And what he's telling you, he's commenting on what's the situation, you know, about all of the panic and all of the doomers that are talking about the situation is so grim and it's absolutely incredible and Ukraine is about to collapse. And he's commenting on that as well. He says, in reality, there is now a lot of whining and panic from 90% of the people who not only do not influence the situation, but do not take any part in the hostilities at all. Real Rexes, the fighters, will confirm to you that the current situation is not comparable in the mess that was in 2022, because then there was nothing, but they had a lot of enthusiasm. Now everything is the opposite. The way out of the situation is simple. Don't screw up how bad it can be, but stupidly focus on your duties and perform them normally. You don't have to worry about how bad it will be for you if things turn out to be unfavorable. You should know clearly what you will do if any development happens. And I think this should be basically inscribed in gold. This should be absolutely clearly understood by everyone. And this is my main message that I do on this channel as well. Exactly what a person from the Ukrainian military is describing. He's saying it's stupid to worry. Do your job, contribute, and it's going to be better. It's going to be fine because we are going into the right direction. I know it might look dark. I know it might look grim, but we are going to the right direction. And that is the best thing that I'm really glad that he wrote this, and it really validates all of the points that I'm making in my videos. So say no to the doomers. Just a nudge to check my QA about the old tech. Did you ask question? Can you write the question with @Ukraine Matters so it gets highlighted for me? Maybe I missed it. Never mind me. Do you view yourself as a news? Okay, that was already about the news. Clyde. Oh, that's about MAGA. Is the Orcish fleet completely? We read about this. Okay. Are the F-16s being used regularly? No one likes... yes, they are. Johan, the Saints. Do you think Europe will unite more in the near future? Yes, I just talked about, man, I'm reading the same question again. The Amos, do you think the US can get a multi-billion aid package early in the next session or later? We'll see after the new elections. It's clear that this question is going to be decided after the election. I think if Kamala Harris will come into president, I think this will be definitely part. And the most important thing, right? This is the most important that the Trumpers will let you to believe. I know we said no more US politics, but let me just this one. Is that what the vote for Ukraine in Congress has shown? Remember that? Absolute dominant majority of bipartisan support was there for Ukraine. Bipartisan support is present in United States. So what a lot of Trumpers will tell you is they will say that there is no support for Ukraine. They will say it's like it's not supported by the majority of Americans. Absolute garbage, not true. Majority of people in US and in Congress, they support more aid for Ukraine. So that's why I truly don't believe there is going to be massive problem in Congress to get more Ukraine aid passed. So there's a lot of talking points about it, but I don't know, I don't see the data that supports that. How is the situation in Kursk going? How much do we currently control? How will we be able to control during the winter? Anastasia, you should watch my video about the Kursk offensive that I did about talking about what the experts are saying, because what is happening in Kursk is exactly what we were talking about. So let me just open the videos that I have made and I'll find that one. Oh my god, I made so many videos. Holy moly. One second. Yes, the video was like this changes everything. Yes, there we go. So if you go into my tab of videos, the videos on my channel, so you will see this video right over here. says Ukraine genius strategy that changed everything. So this video, in there I go through a couple of very high-ranking experts on the matter and what they predicted 2 months ago the situation in Kursk will develop, how it will develop. And the situation is developing precisely the way that they have been stating. So if you want to find out what's going to happen next and what's happening right now in Kursk and everything, you should watch that video from over 2 months ago. Self-promotion is the best promotion. Paviem, thank you. Brutally honest, clear truth. Thank you for being you. Hey. I cannot be anyone else but me. All right, let's read up. This has been going on for a while. How long we've been on? We've been on for 1 hour and 42 minutes. So let's give it 18 minutes more just to kind of round it all up, and let's go further. And then we're gonna round it up, and then video coming tomorrow, and big stream is gonna be on Wednesday, where we're gonna discuss. So follow this. There's gonna be a lot more videos in the future. Will DPR and LPR repatriate to Ukraine? Yeah, absolutely. Peter Mikhailovsky, I can't believe the West is that docile. Are we missing what is going on behind the scenes? There has been like this book recently released by, oh my God, I forgot what was his name. Was it Wolf? Was it Wolf? I don't remember who it was. So there was this recent book released by like by the guy that supposedly had some insights into the Biden administration and Trump administration and so on. And he specifically exposed the BS with Jake Sullivan and Biden on how they bought into Russian nuclear rhetoric. And basically, like, what's because what it showed us is that all of our expectations and our discussion for like why US is Bob Woodward. Yes, maybe that guy. I think it was called War, right? Was it called War? Let me Google it. Bob Woodward. Yes, the book is called War by Bob. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! The book by Bob Woodward. There's a lot of B's and O's there, and it's called War. Now, I haven't read the book, so I cannot say how good or bad that is, but it does have a talk about what happened in the Biden administration, and it was specifically talking about the problems with Biden talking about NATO. I kind of postponed it until I read the book myself. I ordered it. I want to read it through, and then I'm gonna talk about it on some of the video. And I'm going to talk about it in details when I fully read through the book. But from the excerpts that I read, it's basically they are literally buying into Putin's shitty propaganda about nuclear weapons, and that's why they are prohibiting Ukraine to strike inside Russia. It's as silly as that. I was impressed by your take on Vance Wall's debate. The civil discourse was something that I haven't seen in politics for a very long time. Yeah, Elizabeth, I recommend you watching that debate. And don't get me wrong, there are still, as I said, like lies, dishonesties, some things you will like, some things you will not like, something that will make you a bit emotional. But as I said, like the main point is just the civility of it. Like it looks like a, debate, not a fucking clown show. Does Putin wipe or let it crust? Yes. Fred Bear, have you about a huge increase in AIDS? I guess it's like, have you heard about a huge increase in AIDS within Russian soldiers? Well, AIDS is nothing too problematic. AIDS is quite what is the correct word in English? Treatable. Like, I don't think it's curable, but I think it's treatable. So AIDS is like not a very problematic diagnosis. But the fact that Russia is one of the few countries that still has the AIDS epidemic it is absolutely true, so and so on. So it's good. Never mind me. I would vote Ronald Reagan of any half decent. Okay, that's again, sorry. I'm skipping the US stuff as much as I can. How many North Korean troops will it take for NATO to get involved? It doesn't matter about North Korean troops. NATO is self-prohibiting from involvement. Because what NATO should have done is close the sky over Ukraine day one, and we move from there. Like, there is nothing in there that says that NATO cannot intervene in this conflict in Ukraine. It's only our own fears and red lines. It's not about Russia. It is not a danger that the long war makes Russia too much experienced at war. I'm sorry, you mean the dead Russians are getting more experienced, or who are you talking about? Or the Russian stockpiles get more experienced? I'm not like... This argument doesn't make any sense. Experienced at what? At burning their equipment down? Burning through their stockpiles? What is the experience you're talking about? Never mind me. You said that you had health issues and next to YouTube... you said that you had health issues and next to YouTube you have a day job. How many hours do you work a week? How many hours can you take off to relax? Do you sleep enough? I think 7 hours aren't enough to me. So I sleep usually since my university day. I usually sleep for about 6 hours a day. My main job is taking me obviously 40 hours a week. And thankfully, in my main job, it's very, very strict, so we don't work outside of our working hours. I usually take about 50, 60 hours to work with this my YouTube channel, and I obviously have a wife and my family and house that I must dedicate a lot of my free times. So everything, the rest that stays, I do, you know, nerd stuff, like board games, as you can see over there, or like some people have been trying to push me into Warhammer lately. I have been resisting, but we'll see how it's gonna end. I'm a nerd and yeah, mostly data nerd and so on. I agree with your assessment because it makes sense. The only thing I would say is it don't have the information the military have and you shouldn't have. Yeah, absolutely agree, Michael. And I've said it a couple of times, and some people have been reaching out to me in the email. I actually almost feel like, don't get me wrong, like, is there a personal curiosity for me to know more about what's happening in Ukraine? Absolutely. But on many occasions, there have been people reaching out to me stating, hey, you know, I have secret information about what Ukraine is doing. And I responded that it's actually unhealthy for me to know what Ukraine is doing, because I can say something that can sabotage it, right? So that's why I actually specifically asked not to even tell me what's happening in there. There are certain sources of information that are still getting information that is not public, so I still am trying to be very careful, but I do try to mostly base it on public sources, my information. Just because I'm curious. And like when you dig into data, like the data, to be honest, like tells me a lot more than some kind of individual stories. There's been like a guy that's been reaching out to me, and he has been like sending, you know, like what their unit is doing and so on. And it's cool and all, but you know, like, because I really like to look like, you know, the bigger picture, I am more interested to, like, I always cheer him up and say like, hey, thanks, great job and so on. Can we help? Can we get you some more supplies and so on? Stuff like that. That was kind of negotiations. But I am more interested to see that Ukraine wins this war. And sorry to say to people that like maybe on the ground there, like, this is nothing to be about how heroic you are and so on. I just don't feel like the experience of single unit is representative enough for me to draw conclusions about the state of the war. Hope that gets the understanding. There are plenty of people that have more deeper connections with specific tactical operations to talk about the tactical operations of maybe dedicated units. Watch the videos from K9, from sorry, not K9, the K2 battalion, from Terra, Kraken. Like there's a lot of really great battalions. The Peaky Blinders, the guys are really great. So there's plenty of units like Magyar birds, stuff like that. So there's plenty of information. Go to our Discords. The best option, just go to our Discord, because we have aggregators for all of the videos, for all of the news sources, and you can follow everything. So it's great. If there is anything that you think we might be missing, most likely it's already on Discord. Yeah, Warhammer was a tabletop game, yes. Okay, how far are we? We are time. We have 5 minutes more. Okay. Have missed the stream. I just got here. Sorry to hear, my friend. What do you think will break the first in the Russian industry, economy, military, or Putin's health? What do you think will break first, the Russian industry, economy, military, or Putin's health? Ooh, great question. That's a very, very good one. So let's evaluate all those one by one. Industry. How problematic is the industry? Biggest problems for the Russian industries right now is high interest rate. It prevents the industry to Heroям Slava, absolutely. So it prevents the industry to grow their industry. So it prevents the growth. But is it something that is damaging enough so Russia will be forced to close down their military production? Because I'm thinking about obviously military industry. I think not. I think because it's a subsidized government-run operations that they're having with the military industry, I truly believe that they will essentially sacrifice everything else just to have extra tanks being produced. So it's definitely, in my perspective, not going to be the industry. And the second part that the industry is lacking is manpower shortages. But again, because they are the priority number one, they can increase the salaries and get people into that industry, into defense industry, from other parts of the Russian. So maybe civilian industries will suffer, but the main military industry will stay forward. Russian economy. So Russian economy is coming into a very turbulent time. Russian economy is really suffering right now. Let me show you. So in my latest video, or not latest actually, or a video before that, I talked about the Russian, what is it called? The problems with the Russian, oh my God, housing market, the housing market. So let me transition you to this. So what you see before you is a price of I think it's bonds. Yeah, it's a bonds for the Russian main developer, the housing developer in Russia. They are so big that if you look at these numbers over here, so these are the companies on the Russian scale and how much they control. So they are having 5 million square meters of housing that this company is developing. So the total here on this top 10 is like 22 and a half, I believe, square meters of housing that the companies in the top 10 are running, the top 10 developers. So 5 is about 20, like 4-ish% of the top 10 companies that this specific housing developer in Russia is controlling. So, and that Russian developer is basically right now is in a free fall. So that is his bonds trend. So their bonds trend, like their profitability and the purpose, basically they're having a lot of housing that they just cannot sell. What is happening with this main Russian housing developer is basically the same that is happening in China. It's coming into the steep decline, and it is listed, by the way, as like not market critical, but like market significant company in Russia. So there should be a consideration for a potential Russian bailout. But what is happening just with these guys are going to be happening with the whole of the Russian housing market. And obviously, it's just one of the problems. I talk about a lot of the other problems in my other video. So there is a lot of really big problems that are coming for Russia. And if Chinese economy, if what we're seeing right now is something similar that we might see for the Chinese economy, then it's pretty bad. It can be really, really, really bad for Russia with their economy. But with that said, economies are very resilient. A lot of people really want to state that, oh my God, Russia will just collapse because they don't have economy, and the economy will collapse and it's going to end up. No, I don't feel that this is what's going to happen. I feel that Russia will enclose itself even deeper, and I do believe that they're going to start lowering down the interest rate. Whether it's going to be because the central bank president of Russia will be fired and then they will have a new guy, or they will just have different policy. I believe that what is going to happen to Russia is hyperinflation. And hyperinflation is problematic, but it's not a problem that's going to destroy Russia overnight. It's still going to be within maybe a couple of years of this pressure before Russian economy is going to start like not just bleeding, but actually falling apart, right? So 2025 is definitely, we're going to see a lot of blood coming from the Russian economy. It's going to start limping. It's going to start really, really bleeding badly, but it's not going to be yet dead. It's going to take a little bit more pressure for the Russian economy to collapse. Then the question was about Putin's health. Putin is the richest person in the world. He can get any doctor. So there is the perfect health possibilities for Putin. So can he die? Yes, but that's a very low chance for that to happen. Putin has the best doctors ever, so no chance. And the final part of the question was military. Military, again, by the end of 2025, we're going to see Russian stockpiles getting to their end. But the fact that the Russian stockpiles are going to be at the end, it doesn't mean that the equipment on the battlefield will come to an end. I'm pretty sure that Putin will be looking to their allies to buy more equipment from their allies, to start getting more equipment maybe from China. He's going to start doing something. And this is different from China opening their storage facilities to Russia. Russia buying equipment from China, for example, or North Korea, that's going to help them for a certain time, but it's not going to be nearly sufficient. And again, it's going to cause more problems for the economy. So by the end of 2025, we're going to see Russian tactics with their stockpiles essentially ending. They will not be able to go on forever. They will need to find a new way to adapt. And I don't really believe that they will. I believe that we're going to start seeing their military really crumbling by the mid to end 2026. So if I would bet whether what's going to collapse first, I think it's going to be close call between the Russian economy and the military rather than the other two. And I would bet more on the military aspect just because economies are a lot more resilient than militaries. I hope this open question is a great point to end. Thank you so much for everyone that asked the questions. Thank you so much to everyone that participated in today's stream. Thank you so much to the moderating team. I'm going to try to do even more content. If I insulted you, well, I'm sorry that it happened to you today. It's going to happen to someone else tomorrow, and you're going to agree with me instead. Stay with me here, even if you don't like me. I would appreciate it. And most importantly, support Ukraine, because Ukraine matters. I love you. Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you next time.